Danish deception part 2. Okay. So he sent me this message saying, you should come to Ibiza this weekend. I'm going with a bunch of friends. And he's like, I'll send you the flight. Everything will be paid for. And I thought about it for a second because, come on, who wouldn't want to go to Ibiza? And then I thought a couple of reasons why I didn't want to go was mainly because I just bought a Chanel bag. So I was like, I want to work and make more money. And also I felt like this is the type of guy that things come easy for him. And this is not something that's going to be easy for you to obtain. And I didn't want our first weekend to be like just partying together with all of his friends. Like that's not what I wanted. So I ended up telling him no, but I just ended up saying that I needed to work. And I thought he was never going to talk to me again. But somehow this like lit a fire under him and he became even more persistent and he started pursuing me even more. And he was sending me messages like, when are you going to come visit me in Copenhagen? Or I would love to come to Dallas to come see you. And I was just like, who is this man and what's happening? Still not really taking him serious. And then maybe like a couple weeks later, he sends me another message. And at this point, we're still talking pretty consistently on Instagram. We still do not have each other's numbers. And he sends me a message. He says, hey, I have a work conference coming up in Monaco and I would love for you to come. And I read that message and I was like near the south of France, like that Monaco? And he was like, yeah, like I can get you your flight and everything will be taken care of. And I was like, okay, well, give me some time to think about it because I didn't want to say yes on the spot, but I was like, okay, this is something I definitely want to consider. So I thought about it for a while. I talked to my friends about it. I talked to my sisters about it. At first I was like, I don't think I'm going to do it. Like, this is crazy. And then over time I started like talking myself into it. And then one morning I woke up and I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to go to Monaco. So I sent him a message and I said, hey, I've decided I'm going to come to Monaco. And he sends me a message. He said, this is the best day ever. I'm so happy. Send me your passport and everything. I'll book the flight. So I sent him a picture of my passport. And I also was like, oh, and by the way, here's my phone number. He was like, I've been waiting for you to give this to me for now like weeks. And I said, okay, here you go. Thank you for like inviting me on this trip. So I give him my phone number and he sends me a message and he said, it took you long enough. And I said, oh yeah, well, sorry. I'm just a little bit more reserved when it comes to like dating and men. Like I just like to make sure like I'm a very intentional person. And he was just so respectful to me. I remember when he was booking the flights and everything, he was like, don't worry, like I'll get you your own hotel room. Like he was just being so respectful. And so I remember our very first phone call so perfectly because it came completely out of the blue. It was like on like a Tuesday and I'm sitting at my work desk and he sends me a message. He's like, can I call you? And I was like, oh, he wants to call me. And I'm literally discombobulated, freaking out. Like, what am I going to do when this man actually calls me? But I was like, you need to get together. So he calls me, I answer the phone, and he's actually in a cab to the airport. He's about to go on a work trip. And we were just small talking about our day. And I felt like those like butterflies that I felt whenever we had been together at dinner in Croatia. And I remember getting off the phone with him and I was just sitting there like cheesing, like, which I don't ever do. And I was just, this guy is special. And he sent me a message and he was like, you are so cute. Like, I love talking to you. And I said, I love talking to you too. And so basically from that moment on, we just started talking on the phone all the time, like for 1 hour, 2 hours a day. We started talking about a lot of things, about a lot of different aspects of our lives. He was telling me that, he was living in Copenhagen. He was living in this condo. Obviously he knew that I lived in Dallas. And then we started talking about past relationships. And I told him, I was very honest. I said, I actually haven't had like a truly serious relationship before. I have always been a very independent person, but I do want to meet someone. I do want to like get married and have kids, but I don't feel like that pressure to like force it. Like I have such a great example with my parents and I really want to have like an amazing love in this lifetime. And so I'm going to take my time to find that. And I asked him like, what's your history with your dating? And he was like, yeah, well, I actually was in a relationship with a girl and we were together for about 4 years. And I actually broke up with her about 4 months before I met you. And I said, oh my gosh, like the 4 years is a long time. He said, yeah, like it needed to happen for a while. And really what happened was that she told him that she was ready to have kids and he wasn't ready to have kids. And I guess that forced him to realize that she wasn't the one, and they were living together. So it was like a really hard situation to get out of, but he finally was able to do so. And so I was happy to hear that had been about 4 months since they broke up, because if he had said like they had just broken up, I would have been a little bit more hesitant to pursue things, because I know like you go through a breakup, you need time to heal. But I felt like, okay, 4 months should be enough time. And then we started talking about like our families a little bit too. I told him I'm super close with my family. He said I'm really close with my mom and my little sister. I do have an older sister that I don't talk to, and basically something happened and she was like being like physically abusive, verbally, physically abusive towards his mom, and he decided to cut her out of his life because she's crazy. And I said, listen, I get that. That makes sense. Like, you should not have her in your life. And I think just like over the course of a month, we're talking on the phone for just hours. And I tell people all the time that it felt like we fell in love over the phone, because from the time that I had decided to go to Monaco to the time that I actually left for Monaco, it was a month. And we had this plan that we weren't going to FaceTime at all, because we wanted the next time we saw each other to be in person, which I thought at the time was super romantic. And so, you know, we started talking about like hypotheticals. I remember he told me one day, he said, you know, if we ever end up getting married, you're going to meet the queen. And I remember just like laughing at that comment. And he said, no, I'm being serious. And I said, what do you mean I'll meet the queen? And he said, well, you know, my family has a royal title. And I was like, wait, what? And he sent me this link to this site. It's called the Order of the Elephants. And he said, you could do some research and then we can talk about it. And I said, okay. So I start going through the page that he sent me, and I see someone that had the same last name as him, like some old guy from like the 1700s. And I remember taking a screenshot and I said, is this your great great grandpa? And he goes, now you're getting on track. My next question to you is, how's your etiquette? And I was like, I mean, I think it's okay. And so I'm sitting here like, who is this man? He's attractive. He has a great job. He has a royal title. Like, is there anything wrong with him at this point? And I have always believed in the term, it's too good to be true. But I mean, and I was feeling that 100%. Like, I felt like, when's the other shoe gonna drop? But it didn't drop that first month. It was just like, we truly fell in love over the phone. And so we are getting closer and closer to the trip to Monaco, and I start packing, and I feel like that's like when the nerves start hitting me, was when I'm packing, like, oh my goodness, this is actually happening. And I remember my sister was like, you need to put air tags in like all your bags. And I'm like, I don't need to put air tags in anything. Like, I trust this man. Like, I know like it's gonna be okay. Like, every part of me felt like so safe with him already, which was crazy because I hadn't really spent much time with him. Maybe this is trauma from being on The Bachelor, I'm not sure. But I felt very safe with him. And so the day comes where I'm supposed to go on the trip. And so I order my Uber, get to the airport, and I felt like it was kind of like a good sign, because I posted that I was at DFW, and one of my really good girlfriends texted me that lives in a different state. She was like, hey, I'm actually in DFW too. And I was like, oh my gosh. So she comes, meets me at my terminal. She's like, where are you going? I go, I'm actually going to Monaco to meet this guy that I met in Croatia. And she was like, this is insane. And so I just felt like seeing that friend was like a good sign. I don't know why. And I ended up just boarding the flight. I remember boarding that first flight. I had a layover in Madrid, but boarding that first flight, I was sitting there and I was like, this shit is really happening. And all the nerves are just taking over, but I'm like, take a chill pill. It's gonna be okay. You're gonna get there. It's gonna be fine. And at that point, I was like, okay, the worst thing that happens is like, he's a crazy person and I have enough money where I can like just book my own hotel and I'll just have a good time by myself. Like, it'll be fine. So I like had that backup plan. But yeah, I had my layover in Madrid, and then my next flight was to Nice. And so I board my flight to Nice. It was like a really quick flight, and I get to Nice, I land, I get my bags and baggage claim. I sent him a text. I said, I'm here. And I'm rolling both of my bags, about to walk out, freaking out, and let's continue on in part 3.
Guys, it's really tough in the streets. Like, it is bad. People are getting scammed left, right, and center. The Mzungus are scamming. That's what is happening right now. Now, this lady, her name is Onyeka. Madame Onyeka is a lovely, pretty, dark-skinned lady with Nigerian roots. She travels and then she meets this lovely man. She's explaining all this, right? She meets this man who is a white man, right? He tells her, allegedly, he tells her that he has royal ties and he's into real estate and whatnot. So as time goes along, he starts asking her for money. Give me 6,000 USD. He does not only scam her, he goes around to scam her entire family, her friends. By doing what? By getting money from them, promising to pay back, and he is not paying back. Now, when all that comes to light and whatnot, he decides to leave her. Mind you, he even got a green card out of this situation. But he's the one who filed for divorce, not her who found out the truth. Men have the audacity, he's the one who decides to leave her. But why am I bringing this here? Okay, I'm bringing this here to show that sometimes some black women look at white men as the prize. They look at white men as the card to whatever it is that they want to get out of it, to white superiority. Because I have a 6 feet white man with a certain color of eyes, green eyes or something, the rest of you ain't shit. It's giving these people all this power over you. It's giving these people, because if it was a black man, he wouldn't have been able to scam her out of all that money. He totaled the 300,000 USD in the money that he was getting from her family, and her friends. Which black man would have gotten past 10K? But because he's white, there was so many. I feel like they were giving him so many passes, right? Oh no, you're white. Oh, of course you pay back. You're white. Of course. Done. Let's watch a summary of the other clips, because she did 26 parts and I don't know if you guys have the time to sit through it. But yeah, let's get to it.
So you're telling me your ex-husband scammed you out of $50,000 and then scammed your sister, your friends, your coworkers, and your parents? Not only did he scam y'all for thousands of dollars, but he also got a green card. Why didn't anyone Google him? If a man is telling me that he owns properties, I'm Googling it. If a man tells me that he was in the Olympics, I'm Googling him. Why didn't anyone Google him? When she asked his family if they were really royalty, I lost it. And I 100% agree with a lot of people's takes where they're saying that he would have never gotten this far if he was a black man. If this was a black man asking her for some money 6 weeks into the relationship, she would have broken up with him. There's no way they would have made it to marriage. I will say that this story time was very entertaining. I was sad. I truthfully hope Netflix or Tyler Perry picks this up.
About $300,000 is how much Bachelor Anam Onyeka is saying that she, her family, her closest friends, and even a colleague were all scammed out of by one man. Man she once believed was her soulmate. His name? Martin Fursgaard Anderson. Charming blonde 6'3" real estate mogul who claimed he had royal ties, a booming tech business, and wealth that would one day be theirs to share. Instead, Onyeka was left with years of trauma and coming to TikTok to tell her story, which she calls the Danish deception. It's a 26-part story, which she says began in June of 2022 when she decided to take a trip with her friend to Croatia. It was at a beach club when she noticed Martin immediately, and that was when he decided to approach her. He was confident, their chemistry was magnetic, and there was an instant spark. They exchanged social media, and she saw him one more time before returning to the US, but it wasn't the last time she heard from him. He messaged her constantly, invited her to come party with him in Ibiza, and then eventually convinced her to join him for a work trip in Monaco. After a month of talking over the phone, she agreed and he flew her out, paid for the hotel and her flight. In Monaco, he was everything he had promised, charismatic, adored, and effortlessly networking in real estate circles. After that, he whisked her to St. Tropez, paid for a $2,000 a night hotel, and offered to buy her whatever she wanted. She said she never wanted him to think that she was only there for his money, so she didn't let him buy her all these extravagant gifts. Instead, she opted for a $200 sunglasses. She fell hard for the first time in her life, telling him over a loud dinner that she was in love with him. Nights later, she collapses in a restaurant on the way to the bathroom and is eventually taken to the hospital, to which at that point he tells her he's falling in love with her too. Back home, the romance intensifies. He meets her friends, her family, and he fits right in. He flies to see her often, and then money requests begin. There are so many details to this story, but at some point he convinces her that he's buying properties. His money is tied up, that the IRS has a hold on not only his personal, but his business account. He lent him $6,000, then more and more. All while planning a life together in the US, they get married, he's applying for a visa, and eventually gets a green card. At this point, the cracks are forming. She's visiting his family in Denmark, and things aren't matching what he's telling her. After getting married, she finds out from his friend that he has a severe gambling addiction, one that he's been battling for over a decade. Later finds out that he had borrowed $200,000 from her friend's husband that he hadn't paid back. Relationship is going up and down. He convinces her that that's in the past, and later she finds out that he has been borrowing money from a lot of people in her life. Tens of thousands of dollars from one person to another, $3,000 from her little sister. Every loan came with its own set of lies. Every time she would confront him, there were so many excuses until one day he had no excuse left to give, and so he asked for a divorce. Only when he left did she realize the magnitude of it all, from exes to cheating to gambling to lies to manipulation. She is now sharing her story, and while she did not give his name or his photos, the internet did its thing, and I decided to share it as well because people need to know about this man. There's of course so much more that I left out, and I highly recommend watching this 26-part, which I did tag in my caption.
The Tinder swindler only scammed his lovers. Put some respect on his name. This is not the same as Danish deception. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. He never married none of them. Do you know how deceptively cunning you must be to marry someone and be in this web of lies? And you're in their innermost circle. Like the Tinder swindler, them girls never met his friends and family. They didn't. And they still got conned. This one met friends, family. She had multiple opportunities to dissect the story, to Google here and there. And she was in the inner cuckus, whatever you want to call it, of the whole situation. And Onyeka still got scammed. Let's break it down, okay? The first thing is, I got my book right here for the information, okay? The first thing is, here's why she was more gullible than most. They didn't meet online. They didn't meet in a construction site. He wasn't renovating her house. They didn't meet through friends. She met him in person in a private members club at a bar. So in her mind, whatever he's saying to her has to be true, because the setting in which they're in, the location, is given vibes, is given money, is given European wealth and culture. So that in itself, when she's seeing that, bearing in mind she was drinking a mojito when they met, so that with his height and his build, that's why she could have said that he looks like a Calvin Klein model. I've been seeing some pictures. Some of them I see from a distance what she could have seen, but up close, But remember, she's been drinking. She's on holiday. She's on eat, pray, love mode. So that's why she might have felt he was a Calvin Klein model. That's why she might have been predisposed to believe he might come from wealth. And, you know, we're not even going to go into the royalty bit. That's another paragraph. But why he might have come from wealth, okay? That's why she might have been gullible. First point. Some of you are too young to know this movie called How Stella Got Her Groove Back. It's about how Angela Bassett's character went on holiday to the Caribbean and, you know, fell in love with this guy and everything was great. So maybe she felt this is her How Stella Got Her Groove Back moment, okay? The first red flag for me was when her German friend said, no, let's go. They were supposed to meet later on and the friend was like, nah, let's go. As a European, she probably saw through the bullshit. She was like, let's go. And then they didn't see him later on. But he cornered her at her most vulnerable time. Her friend had gone back. She was all alone. You have to remember, another part of this is, this woman is in her 30s. She's not a teenager. She's not in her early 20s. She's in her 30s. And women who are in their 30s, they generally, most of them, want to settle down and find love. This is precisely why I wrote Single to Engage in 1 year, a no-nonsense book that helps you secure the ring faster, but I should have written and smarter. For instance, look, don't trust any man. regardless of ethnicity. All men are the same. If she'd seen that, she would have realized that anyone can con her, not just men of certain ethnicities. Another thing, if she'd known, never marry a man out of pity or desperation, she would have known that, bruh, something is off here. I don't want to give him no passport by marrying him quickly so he can stay. Again, abuse is not okay. Leave the first time. Have a courage to walk away from what doesn't feel good. She didn't leave him. She didn't initiate the divorce until he said he didn't want to be married anymore. Again, never tell a man how much you earn. These are just one of 100 gems in this book. Single to engage in 1 year. I don't want to hear another one of these Risa Tisa stories, Danish deception. All of these women, single to engage in 1 year. All of these women, single to engage in 1 year. None of this stuff will be happening. Buy the book. And this seemed like the perfect situation. She would have vetted him more in America than when she was in Europe, because why would anyone in Europe lie to her in her mind? You have to understand, these are people, don't come for me now, who have seen Meghan Markle come from America to Europe, find her prince, you know, have this great love affair, and happily ever after, obviously to come, but happily ever after. So she's now in Europe on holiday, meeting this great guy at this bar in this expensive location in Hvar in Croatia, in this, you know, private members club. And this guy who she thinks is probably her Prince Harry, he's saying he's gonna fly her out. You have to understand, in America, people get flown out, you know, all the time because there's states and whatnot. But in Europe, guys generally don't fly you out because they're too frugal. To fly you out means you got to plan the accommodation, you got to plan the flights, you got to plan the restaurants, you got to plan the whole day. And for someone you don't know, most European guys don't do that. As a British guys don't do that. To do all of that for someone you've just met, for her, it's probably the norm in America to get flown out. So she's getting flown out, and in her mind, he's got it like that. You know, it's nothing random. That's why some of the things I heard, context is so important. I had to put myself in her mindset and be like, why would she fall for this so easily? Okay, because she comes from a culture where it's easy to get flown out. Okay, third point, she's a bit talkative, and 26 parts, I had to press 2 times speed for all these videos because I couldn't sit through that. But she looks like someone who is very talkative, great at communicating. After all, she sells real estate. She sells homes and property for a living. So she needs to talk. I think she was also trying to sell herself on that first date. I think when the friend was like, for her to even say stuff like, oh, tell me the kind of guy, tell me the kind of girl that he would like and stuff like that. She's already setting herself. She's trying to put things into motion for things to go. So ultimately, she created her own downfall because she pursued him. That's what I'm going to say in that. She pursued him. She asked for his Instagram. When he asked to fly her out, she said okay. Even at the point that her German friend said no, she still pursued it. Her putting her hand on his lap. She was free meat, and he's a wolf, okay, and a lion saw free food. She's free food. I believe firmly, based on what I've seen on the video she's done, her selling herself. I know as a talkative, she's probably told him what she does for a living, how much she probably earns. You know, the back for back, thinking that this is someone in the same industry as her, so she let her guard down. She was slightly drunk. So he's just gathering data, gathering information on this young woman, gathering substantial information and thinking to himself, hold on, I don't even have to go to China right here to finesse people. I don't have to go to the gamblers to get the loan shacks to get the money. This is free meat. This girl, I know for a fact because she's told us she's earns £150,000 a year, $150,000 a year. She probably told him she earns $150,000 a year. So it's calculated, okay, she's got the money, she's got access to an American passport, and I know many people will be like, oh no, but he's Danish, he's from Denmark, he doesn't need the American passport. But when you're a budding criminal like him, you need the American passport. He done committed crimes all around his area. He's committed crimes in China. America is a land of opportunity and dreams. Of course, he's gonna want to go there and solidify this grand scheme to finesse he did. I guarantee you he Googled her and he saw that she was on The Bachelor. Or maybe, once again, as a talkative woman, she probably told him that she was on The Bachelor, that she's never had a proper relationship. So she's told him all this information now, and he's thinking, wow, what have I done in life to get all this? Like, she is food. You know, she's gone on the show. That means she's got some fame. That means he can attach some fame to his name. Because all I did was Google his name, and it literally comes up as husband to bachelor star. Da 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 da. So he's got the fame. He's got the finance, her finances, her family's finances. Here's another thing. I think we shouldn't be so hard on the parents. She's like 34, 36. That means her parents are probably in their 70s. That means they're in the twilight years of their life, so they're not fully like coherent with what's going on and very sharp with being fully Nigerian. I also think that they're second gen Nigerian, which makes her third gen Nigerian. So they're not in that struggle mode to prove themselves and create the American dream. I think they've already set up an American lifestyle dream for her because she's educated, you know, she's got a great job. They had a great job. They can afford to fund her white wedding. She assumed they would fund her white wedding. So clearly the money is there, the funds is there. So as a first gen Nigerian, how first gen Nigerians think is, they're in like that mode, that hungry mode where they want to monopolize, they want to take over, they're so industrious, they're so entrepreneurial, they need to make it. It's do or die, it's fight or flight. Her parents are comfortable now, so they're not vetting him in that way. Like, they're not going to do their due diligence, because in their mind, this girl has never had a proper relationship before. She's been ultimately the perfect daughter, very obedient, got a great job, never been in trouble, has great friends, has a great social circle, you know, has done such great things that they're probably boasting about her. For them to think that why would they need to go and vet the man she's brought home? This is the first time she brought a man home. They trust that she would have done the right thing and vetted him. So that's why they didn't really vet him. Yes, Google is free. There's going to be a part 2 to this because I have to delve some more. I'll see you in part 2.
OMG. I just finished watching The Danish Deception and I have thoughts and notes. First of all, it means a lot that her name is Onyeka, but she's calling herself Onyeka, Onyeka, Onyeka. I'm so sorry. Like, there's no amount of Americanism that's going to make you pronounce your whole name incorrectly. Like, it does tell about who you are. I'm not trying to come down on you, but I am saying it infers about who you are as a babe. Number 1. Number 2. Girl, I have been in a long distance relationship too. And one thing's for sure, two things for certain. My current husband told me he worked for one of the biggest tech companies in the world. You know? And I saw him go to the office every day. I saw him make, vlogs and all these special edition TV shows for his company, etc, etc. But one thing's for sure, two things for certain, until I got to where he lived and looked at him sign into his portal, put on his headset, and his talk. I didn't believe him. So for the fact that you went so far as to believe him, to get married to him and didn't tell your parents, nah. Yeah, your man is a scammer. He's funny style, etc, etc, but you two, you're funny style. I don't care. Girls, peep my tea. My man told me he works for one of the biggest tech companies in the world, one that you guys use every day. I saw him. I would see him walk into work. He would take pictures with his badge, all that. I didn't care. At the time I was working for Google, so I said, listen, if he's lying, if he's, setting up a prop, if he's pushing a scheme set up by Todd, I'm going to take myself and get on out. You believed him on top of nothing. All this, I sent him money to send him money, auntie, kilo day. No. One thing that I always push on my page is there is some personal accountability that you need to have as a woman. When a man tells you, oh, baby, I'm so rich, you can be a housewife, you can be anything, and you see his quality of life increasingly declining, know that what he told you was a lie and he's a liar. So you being grown, paying taxes, writing W-2s. I'm not gonna lie. I don't have that sympathy for you. I don't have that empathy for you. I'm not gonna lie. Because even me, your man and my man did it the exact same time frame. And one thing's for sure, two things for certain. I was watching that man. He had a LinkedIn. He had video footage of him at his company. He used to take pictures of him at his company. I didn't care. I didn't believe him until I saw him log in his credentials and work a whole 8-hour shift in my face. So, sorry, yo. I don't believe you. Number 3. No shade, no tea. You know, we love the heart wants what it wants. But it gave like you were just like in love with the tall white man. Girl, are we lying? Like, I swear, like, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm Nigerian. And Nigerian men, they do scam a little. I'm not going to lie. They do love their little scam in 1 and 2. But I don't even feel like he had to scam you that hard. Everything he said, you believe. Everything he said, you believe. You be Igbo babe for real? Onyeka. Stop calling yourself Onika, Onyeki, Onyeka. You're not even gullible. You wanted to believe that stuff. You wanted to. Auntie, am I lying? Like, even just like drop all the steez. You wanted to believe the things he was telling you. You liked the way it looked when you guys would stand next to each other, Abby. It's okay. You never already casted yourself. Just cast yourself to the end. Because a man is an Olympian. A man has a royal family. A man owns all these apartment buildings. Girl, I used to work for Google. It's free. Free 99. It doesn't cost a thing. You played yourself. So like, I'm so sorry. I'm not going to, allow you put all this stuff on this man. You wanted that man. You wanted what it looked like. You wanted the fairy tale. You wanted it all. I'm sorry. Like, I'm a girl's girl. Like, I don't even want to side with a man, but you wanted what it looked like and you got the end results. Ladies, ladies, ladies. When a man tells you he can afford this, and all of a sudden, after getting with you, he can afford less and less and less and less and less. What do you think that is? It's all a scheme set up by Todd. And at this big 2025, if you don't have that, inference, that common sense, that deference at this point, shall I dare say, you deserve to get scammed. Yeah, I'm so sorry. Love you, babe. You're so pretty, teasy peasy, too squeezy, but now you do yourself, bidat. He didn't even try hard. Sorry, okay? Okay. Bye, girls. And you know what else is crazy? People saying, oh, don't victim blame. She's not a victim. Guys, a white man with blue eyes and blonde hair comes to you and says, I am a millionaire. I am royalty. Then the next thing he says is, I need $6,000. Are we victim blaming or are we common sense pointing outing? Which one is it? Like, I feel like the internet loves to do all these like internet-y things. Like, oh, you don't understand. If somebody comes to me and says, I am rich, go buy a Chanel bag. Then 2 days later comes back and says, I need $6,000. I know this is a scheme set up by Todd. Hello? Mind you, this girl, she wasn't even like in her early 20s. If she was like in her late teens, early 20s, I could understand. Homegirl's in her late 30s. You work in real estate, which means you verify people's funds before they let them buy houses. Girl, no funny. I would not even trust you I don't want to buy no house from you. Because common sense is running very far from you. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, he deceived you. He deceived you in the same way that people call our phones every day trying to run a scam, telling us that, we owe something on our Verizon bill, etc. What do? You hang up the call. This wasn't that. And another thing, her allowing this man into her life. Guys, think about it really well, right? When your friend or your sister or your cousin gets a boyfriend, you don't go vetting him. You assume that your relative, your cousin, your whatever, did the work to vet him herself before she allowed him come into your family. So she cost her family all that money. Hello? What's not clicking? Like, this isn't about no victim blaming. What millionaire needs $6,000? I think that was the first amount of money that she said that he asked for. What millionaire needs 6,000 US doll hairs? None. Girl, you work in real estate. Are you serious? You're in your late 20s. Are you serious? You're Igbo. And let's talk about that Igbo-ness of yours. You go to the village, which means there's no Igbo person. First of all, going to the village is such an active thing to do. It's such an active process. You gotta get to Lagos. You gotta hire a bus or get on another plane. Get to your village. Go through. Your parents will tell you, don't greet that auntie. Don't let that person touch you. Don't pick up money from the floor. Don't eat that person's food. Like, it's such an active experience. It's not something that you just do and then you just come back to Dallas and you don't know, like, you know the tease. You know a scam. You know to stay away from that cousin, but let that cousin close. You know the vibes. I'm Evo. Stop playing. So I think she knew she was getting scammed. She was giving him the money to cover it all up, you know? And she liked the idea of him and this white man being together. She knew he was funny style. She didn't mind as long as he was on her arm. The second he gets off her arm, now you're stealing passports and stuff. Sometimes, guys, people are just dumb. And come on the internet and just say, hey guys, I am dumb and this is what I did. Because don't come up here and telling me this guy, he overly scammed you. He was so manipulative. He was such a genius. No, he's not. There's no genius, millionaire that needs $6,000 from me. That's the first one. First. I'll say, wow. What's more proof? Proof that he's a millionaire or proof that he asked me for $6K? Are we catching the vibes? And another thing, her saying, I wanted to show him that I wasn't here for his money. What do you mean? If a man tells you he has money, you enjoying the money is not you using him. It's you enjoying the thing that he has. I got jokes. If somebody says, Chi, I don't want you to think I'm with you because you're funny, then why else would you be with me? I got plenty of jokes. Come and get one. Really deconstruct why you did this, why you, Onyeka, Anika, why you did this to your family and friends. Deconstruct it. Because that man had a part to play, but girl, you had a bigger one. And that's why I always say, when you meet a man, when you're dealing with a man, tell yourself the story of how you guys met and how the relationship is going like a storybook. I've said this already. Don't leave out any details. Don't do ups and downs. Don't skip past. Say it the first day we did it, second day we did it. Because guess what? Once you start saying it to yourself, I'll even do you a better one. Record yourself while you're saying it. Then you can get to the tease of what's going on. Because a lot of people like to play victim instead of just saying, actually, I wasn't that much of a victim. What lady in her late 20s hears that a man is a millionaire, that you can fly all across Europe, but then in the same breath you need $6K? Could make sense, rara. So lady, that's why everybody's blaming you because we're not dumb. Like, I'm not gonna play this internet game of like, but hold on. No, but nothing. There's no millionaire that's gonna ask you for $6,000. And that's just that on that. Okay. Bye guys.
All right, guys, we've come to the end of this episode. Have you guys been scammed before by the people that you've dated or the women that you've dated? Now for men, just let me know in the comment section. I know it has happened. Just let me know in the comment section. But guys, I'll be sure to see you in the next one. Make sure you follow me on all my socials, Johnny Tamaya, website, johnnytamaya.com. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.